Hi, my name's Annie, and I was night 3, and I talked about the Passover. So I talked about it was the final plague, and it was the final step for getting the Israelites out of Egypt. It was the final thing that God did, and He sent this, what it says in the Bible, an angel of death down to kill the firstborn son of all the families in Egypt. But He told the Israelites that in order to save their firstborn son, they had to kill a lamb without defect, so a lamb that was completely perfect, and then paint its blood on their doorposts. And when the angel of death saw that blood, he would pass over them. And that's where we get this celebration, that's where the Jews got the celebration Passover from, because the angel of death passed over their houses, and they celebrated it for years and years and years, because they celebrated the time when God passed over their houses and their people escaped Egypt. And then Jesus comes along 400 years later, 400 and a bit years later, and completely redefines this Passover when he's celebrating it with his friends, and they are eating the bread and drinking the wine together. And rather than saying, you're going to remember this act that God did years ago to save your people, Jesus says, now, when you have this celebration and when you eat this bread and drink this wine, you're going to think of me. So we totally redefined the Passover. And the disciples must have been thinking, how can Jesus possibly say this? How can he possibly redefine this centuries-old tradition, this centuries-old celebration? But when Jesus died on the cross, he became the lamb. So the lamb that the Israelites killed to get them safely out of Egypt, where they painted the blood over the doors, Jesus becomes that lamb. But this time it's for everybody, and it's not just a one-off thing. It's not just a one-off time where the Israelites get to escape Egypt. Now it's for everybody, and it's for everyone that wants to accept it. So now we can be saved, even though we're not Jewish, and even though we don't have to kill a lamb anymore, because Jesus is our lamb, and all we have to do is say that we accept his sacrifice. And you might be thinking, well, what do I really need saving from? But actually, the Bible tells us that we were created to be in relationship with God. We've turned away from that relationship, and we've turned our backs on God. So even though he made us and created us, we've actually turned away and said, I don't want to live your way, God. I want to live my own way. And it's not just an individual problem. It's not karma. It's not, I cheated on that test at school and then I broke my leg on the way home and that's karma. It's actually consequence. It's consequence for not just our own sin and the times that we turn away, but as collectively as humanity, we have all turned away from God. And as a consequence for that, the world is not as it should be. We can no longer be with God, because the world isn't as it should be, and we are dirty and we're unclean and we can't be near God. But Jesus came and he took the punishment that we should have taken on the cross, so that we can be with God now, because that stuff that we do, that's all dealt with. That punishment is gone because he became the lamb and he died in our place. So he redefined the Passover. He becomes our lamb, and this time it's not just for one people group, it's for everybody, and it's for all time.